Hi, everybody. Welcome to Esxence on Air. And we are now introducing to live talk today, organized by Esxence. The first one will be Artistic Perfumery in Digital World, what we learn from online conversation and web searches. Esxence is, a study center that was originally created by a brainstorming between a lot of people involved in the business of beauty and niche perfumery. There was a lot of meeting during 2018, and finally, as you know, in 2019, we presented our first Whisperer, made together with Devil Digital and our team during Esxence. The aim of Esxence is to work together and intensely with Esxence to continue what in the conference room has been introduced during the day of the fair, but maintaining and developing and studying much more what was proposed and appears during this meeting between influencer, which is a maker, and professor, or whatever you want, and maintaining a contact with the community all over the year. Incidentally, we were in 2019, and and all of us knows what's happened. So unfortunately, 2020 and 2021 edition was unfortunately delayed. But essentially, all over this period, continue to work and maintaining the contact, and we continue what we started in 2019. And so we monitoring everything happens during 2020, 2021. So today, the essential staff, as you see in this slide, is made by myself, I'm the founder and director, Julia Levy. Julia Levy is in charge for marketing and operation, and obviously is my daughter, but anyway, but it is a marketing graduated lady. Chiara Tonello is following us since the beginning, and today is in force all over the time as project management for the Esxence. And we have a lot of advisors, but especially we have the columnists. They are making our original publication inside the website esxence.com that appears last year. And Karen is here with us, and Laura Clove is the other one that is the main producer of original article inside the website. And between our advisor, we have also Marco Ricchetti that is with us, that is an economic advisor for us, is the CEO of Blumine, and is working with us for that. And we thank so much also Marco for what we can give us as support and analysis of some of the data we collect during the web listening. And obviously, once again, Devil Digital, and today we have Alicia Rizzetto as a speaker for the data we collected to propose them to you. It's so important, I think, for all of us to maintain the contact, and the motto of Esxence is promoting innovation, high creativity, and development of niche perfumery and cosmetic. So I think that it's so important that we maintain the contact with the community, is a market. We will see after that we have some very positive data to show you. And I see that the future in front of us is really interesting, despite what we have to suffer, let me say, all over this in this period. So I would like to let Chiara Tonello now to introduce what we made, and we are going to propose you, and what we are sharing in these days with you is a part of the intensive work we made, but is a summary of something that is very interesting, and I do hope will be very promising and useful for the complete business. Thank you so much to everyone.
Thank you so much, Silvio, for your introduction. As a Esxence project, we have the following activities in place. As a strategic partner of Esxence for this edition of Esxence on Air, we have 4 more webinars from tomorrow. 3 webinars are managed by Karen Marin, that interview 3 experts of USA, China, USA market. And these webinars had the aim to identify which opportunities and which points of attention niche perfumery brands would have when entering in those markets. The last webinar, that is on 30th of June, is chaired by Alessandro Brun and is dedicated to sustainability topics. As Silvio told before, we have a website, essentional.com, that has been launched on April 2020. This website publishes original content by our contributors and also repost news and articles that are considered relevant for the industry and approved by our advisor. As a study center, since 2019, we set up continuous monitoring of web searches and mentions, and we made surveys and analysis about the sector. Just to provide you an example, but we will talk it later, this year we set up an international monitoring of social web communities. So this is just to give you an idea of what Essentional is doing in this period and what you will find on our website. So I leave the floor to Alicia Rizzetto, who will present what we learned from online conversation and web searches.
Well, thank you, Chiara and Silvio, for the premises and in the introduction. So I'll start with figuring out the scenario, telling you what we call 3 big numbers. So what we've learned so far from the comparison between what we've seen during the 2019 webinar during Esxence and what happened in the past 2 years. So starting from mentions that are all the online conversation regarding artistic perfumery and relevant artistic perfumery brands. We registered 186,000 conversations. There are few less compared with what we registered in 2019. But we have many positive data that, and we'll see together today, that demonstrates the increase in interest in this world. And the second big number is one of these data that demonstrate the big interest in it, because we registered that more than the half of this huge amount of mentions, so the 55%, are conversation that regards simply the artistic perfumery in general. So without considering any brands, also the very well known, but also the more independent one. And this percentage is increased because in 2019 was 46. So it's an encouraging data that we will discuss later on. And speaking about searches, we have more than 5 million monthly searches about artistic perfumery and all its brands. It's quite a huge number, but the question is, how can we consider it? Is it a positive news, or is it something that is not so far from what we've learned in 2019? Well, data tells us that it's an extremely good news, because we have an increase of almost 40% of searches about this topic. And moreover, that is, in our opinion, also more important, the increase we registered in all the searches worldwide for all topics related to artistic perfumery, but without considering any brands, so just for general words about the niche fragrances, increases with a percentage of more 100. That is an extremely positive news. Going deeper in countries and conversations, we saw that the place where people speak most about artistic perfumery are the United States. But what is quite interesting, quite relevant to us, is that other countries, other places that were not so relevant in the past, and I'm speaking specifically about Arabia or Russia or Africa, are extremely increasing in the past 2 years. We also see a specific country, Nigeria, for example, that registered an increase of more than 1,000 conversations in only 2 years. We'll speak about the reason of that increase later on, but just let me say that this data is strictly connected with the emerging new brands, with the black-owned brands, with the indie brands that are gaining grounds among all the most famous brands in niche perfumery. Well, where doesn't mean simply a location or a place, because we are speaking about the digital world. So we went deeper also on the where in terms of digital channels. Well, what we can see is that taking in consideration what happened worldwide, we have the extremely predominance of Twitter. That is something that is quite different from Italy. I know it could sound a bit weird because here we are not used, or let's say no more used than in the past in using Twitter, but this social platform is something that is extremely used out of Italy, and data also confirm that. Moving to Italy, we can see an interesting change because in 2019 we added the majority part of conversations that were registered on Instagram, and this data changed in 2021. The main reasons are two. The first one is a sort of technical one, because you all know that in the past 2 years, regulation related to privacy changed a lot, and all digital tools had to respect also the new rules, and were not allowed to register all all the confirmation in all social media platforms as they could do before. The second main reason is that we found out that people is always more interested in knowing storytelling about this special word, this niche word. And for knowing this information, for speaking, for comment with other users, they prefer to use blog. And that's the reason why we can see that a big percentage, so it's more than 60% of use of blog in Italy this year. Well, this data, this trend is not confirmed simply by the conversation, but also by the Google searches. We can see here that all the searches connected with asking for information, asking for content, asking also for advice, for reassurance, are increased of almost 200%. It's a huge amount, and even if the percentage of searches is just almost a 5, so we are speaking about 221,000 searches per month, we have this relevant, extremely relevant increase that we need to monitor, to follow also in the next months. We can also see that the most used word in this kind of searches are these small part, so the how, the best, and the where. So we decided to go deeper in these kind of searches to understand better why people are using these words in their searches online, what they are asking for. Well, here we have a chart with just some of the enormous amount of searches we've found. But what is interesting are principally three main data. So we have a big increase of searches related to the production process. So people is asking how to produce their own perfume or essential oil, how these perfumes are made, how works the production, the creation process. And moreover, another huge increase of searches is related to the best fragrances, not at all the best fragrances, but the best fragrances for every kind of people. So the best one for women, and the best natural perfumes, the best unisex perfume. And not less important, another important evidence is that we have almost 45,000 monthly searches for looking for instruction in how to apply perfumes, where to spray cologne, how to wear it, because and that's the evidence that we learn from this data. People want to know better, want to go deeper in what they are wearing, not speaking about simply clothes, but also perfumes, and also how these products are made. Always looking at searches, but taking in consideration another small niche, the searches about top product and about the trend and the test. Again, we do not have huge numbers, huge searches, but what is more interesting here is the percentage of increase, because it shows us how it's going, the trend. So, and also what we should expect from the next years. The main evidence here is that the test searches, the asking Google how to test the product, registered an increase of almost 400% in only 2 years. That is extremely huge. So we went deeper also in this information. If we extend the searches, taking in consideration not simply test perfume, but also quiz to find the best perfume, or how to test perfume, what is the best way to test fragrances, we can see an average increase of almost 1,000%. Again, in only 2 years. Well, we can relate this data also to what happened last year. So to the impossibility to test sometimes personally in a physical store directly the fragrances. And probably this is something that invite people, that involve people in finding the best way of testing perfumes, even if they were from home. And something else that is quite relevant here is that the average increase about top perfume, so searching for what is considered top, what is considered best, but without any specific reason, registered an increase of only 66%. Well, it's an increase, it's true, but if we compare the two numbers, it's easy to understand that consumers really prefer to find their own fragrance, and that they are not interested in following what is the mass market. We also went deeper because also listening to me, you see that I'm using niche, I'm using artistic as attribution, as adjective, as a synonym. But what do people think about that? What is the right name for artistic perfumery? So we went deeper into that, and we found out that yes, people is using not simply niche or artistic for attribute to perfume, to this word. They use also different words, for example, luxury or original or artisan. There are quite a lot of definition about that. What is interesting here is that not in Italy, but worldwide, the word luxury to identify artistic perfumes is increasing compared to the past few years, and that is something that we should take care. We should monitor, because the way we call our products, it's less important than the way our customers are calling the product, and we should follow this way. Speaking about brands and typology, we gave you an overview of what happened with this big number, but are people looking also for brands or for specific typologies? Well, we even if we analyzed many brand name, we preferred not to mention them today. But what we can say is that there are few brands that year by year are always the most recognized and the most searched. But the most important thing is that the other minor brands, the indie ones that I mentioned before, are gaining ground. And we should expect something special in the next months, in the next years from them. And moving to typologies, we registered in the past year a big interest in products for men. For example, cologne or shower gel for men, or aftershave. Well, we have the trend that it's quite changing. So men is still the most interested in this kind of product, but something is happening, something is changing also here, and that's the reason why we decided to go deeper also on that, and in understanding how are perfume for men or for women searched. Are they still labeled in this way, or is people looking for simply perfume? Well, searches told us that we are still in this trend. So people are still looking for specific product for specific gender. We have an increase. It's not a huge increase compared to other topics, but it's still an increase. What is most interesting here is that we have the women part. So the searches regarding perfume for women, fragrances for women that are gaining ground. And on the other side, we have a quite small decrease, but still a decrease of the monthly searches for the term men. Moreover, we can see a huge percentage increase. We are speaking about the 340% for the term unisex. Well, I have to say that here numbers are not so huge. Also in the pie chart, you see there's a very, very small slice. But what's interesting here, what is to monitor here, is the increase year by year, because it demonstrates a quite increasing interest in what is not for men, neither for women, but simply for everybody. In 2019, we found out that there were also specific occasions for wearing perfumes. For example, wedding was one of them. The specific fragrance for wedding, the specific products for wedding. Well, due to the pandemic, the occasion of use are today quite changing, but also changed in the past months. So, for example, speaking about season, we have the specific product for specific season that is decreasing. We have a decrease of more than 70%. But there are other moment, other way for buying an artistic fragrance. For example, the gift occasion. We have an increase of that part, probably because also due to the feeling during the pandemic, people wanted to feel closer to the other, even if there wasn't the possibility to stay together. And again, especially because I introduced you to the theme of pandemic, there's a different way to smell perfumes, to smell fragrances. And one of them is to, wear our home, our places of perfumes. We have not huge amount of searches for now for this topic, but what is more interesting is that the trends are extremely increasing. We have, for example, searches like home fragrances or home candles that were completely absent from the analysis we did in 2019 and that are now present, increasing, and most of all, again, gaining grounds between and among the world of fragrances just for people. Another interesting trend is connected to eco-sustainability. That is a theme that is not connected simply with the world of perfumery. It's something that is increasing in many fields. Here, we are seeing that apart from the increase of searches, we have a huge amount of mention online. That means that people, apart from looking for that theme on Google, is speaking spontaneously online about this topic. And they are always looking for more vegan, more cruelty-free products and more sustainable products. Sustainable that are that is an attribute not simply connected with the product itself, but is often linked also to the packaging. And something else that follow this green trend is called aromatherapy. Again, this is something that was not emerging when we met in 2019 during the previous presentation of this data, but it's something connected from one side to the sustainability and to the other side to the people that want to make their own place, their home, where they spend a lot of time during pandemic, a better place, a cozy place, and they can do that also thanks to essential oil and diffuser and home fragrances, and they can also feel better thanks to aromatherapy. I told you something before. I introduced you the theme about indie beauty. Well, again, we have an increasing interest about this theme. These brands are not pretending to take over the big brands that are extremely searched, that are extremely well known, but they are gaining ground because they probably care more than others to sustainability, to how they make product, to the storytelling, and that's the reason why people are speaking about them. Having a look, for example, on the online mention, we have an increase of more than 200 year on year. That make us in front of a scenario that will completely change probably in 1, 2, or 3 years. Another theme that was not so present in the previous analysis, because it's growing right now, is the one about perfumery schools. If you think about it, it is strictly connected with what we saw about Google searches in the people that want to know more how to make perfume, how to produce our own essential oil. It is a sort of wave that shows us that people want to be always more able to know how things are made. Maybe in a quite simple way, but on the opposite side, because we are speaking also about perfumery school, in a professional way, in order to transform an interest, a passion, in something that may become a real job. And again, we have something that probably you've never heard in 2018, but a new word that we've learned in 2019 and in 2020. We have the anosmia. It's a trend that we could not exclude from our analysis, because it's increasing and the interest also in this theme is increasing. And moreover, apart from the extremely huge increase we can see, for example, anosmia causes or anosmia treatment that registered an increase of more than 1,000, we should keep in mind this term and this topic also in the following months, since it will probably increase the interest and also the subtopic connected to this. We are presenting you just some collected information about the huge amount of data we collected, but they are still they are significant, relevant for starting having a quite a sort of forecast of what we should expect in the next months, in the next year, in the world of artistic perfumery. Well, for sure, we know that the restriction, what happened due to the pandemic, and move all people, move us in finding new way to test product, to choose product, and for sure, what professional will have to do is to find the best way to match the rules of social distance and similar regulation to the new interest in people for testing, for staying close to products. And again, connected to this, we call it do it yourself. So the way of making products that is always more relevant, always more interesting for people that are curious to know more about the production, about the creation process, and how to make their own product. Here again, professionals will have to find the best way to match their proposal, their reputation, and at the same time gain support from customers that are looking for making product, not simply buying them. And last but not least, we have to face with people that are hungry for knowledge. Mention told us that people are looking for perfumery school, for perfumery online courses. So how will brand respond to that? They will have to find the best way to face this will from people and answer in the better way. So thank you for now, and leaving the stage to the other speakers.
Thank you so much, Alice. Thank you so much, Alice. And now we give to Marco Ricchetti the opportunity to speak about some economical data and something else. Thank you so much.
Oh, well, thank you very much, Silvio. The presentation was really full of interesting hints and also provided a number of drives for discussion. I would like, however, to limit myself a bit and most of all to align myself to the positive mood that we have today about what we have in front of us in the next future. So let me just make a very short comment on the forecast, on what we can expect in the next months, putting it in a more general framework of economic analysis. Well, I think that's at the beginning of this year, and especially after the first quarter of the year, we have seen, at least in all over Europe, an interesting reversing of the trend with a real jump or rebound of the attitude of all the economy and of all the operators. What is interesting is that the key factor today for this year, at least, is the topic of having a huge amount of savings from the families that's were being increased during the pandemic period. From one hand, you have people that have actually reduced the savings because of the crisis, but on the other hand, you have an even larger amount of people that actually was not touched in their income by the crisis, but they had no way to spend because of the stores were closed down, because travelers were limited, etc. And so now, as soon as all over Europe, and even as we have seen in other countries such as the US, the freedom of movement, the opportunity to go out for shopping has suddenly become again a reality. These people is eager to spend. So consumption is expected to jump, to grow immediately in the next weeks, I would say. This is something that is especially important for the medium class and the wealthy people. And this, I think, is a typical market or a typical target for artistic perfumery. So in this sense, I see from an economic point of view an interesting opportunity in the next months. On the other hand, we also see, as it was very clearly stated by the presentation by Alice, some change in the structure of consumption. We had to redefine our spaces during the pandemic, and we expect to have still a lot of people working remotely. So this issue of this opportunity that comes from the home fragrance is another very interesting potential for growth in the next months. But let me just spend a few words just mentioning a couple of points that were raised during the presentation that I see as very interesting. The first of all is the topic of the schools. That means that people are engaged. I don't know if they want to have a professional future in artistic perfumery or not, but they want to know more. And what best option you have for your marketing than people that want to know what you are doing. That's another great opportunity to create communities around this topic of knowing more. I see, on the other hand, that there is still some problem in terms of, branding or the identity of this segment, because someone is talking about niche, artistic, artisan. Well, on one hand, this is a nice point, a nice interesting point, because it means that you have a number of value proposition you can give to your customers. You are an artisan, you are an exclusive producer, you are a creator and an innovator and an artist. So that's super good. But on the other hand, sooner or later, you have to define the identity of this segment. Third point, the topic about gender. Great, super interesting, I think. We are, in front of us, we have all the world that talks about gender fluid, non-binary, and all these things, especially in the fashion business. As you know, I am part of my business is working in the fashion business. So I think that's another very interesting point, because what is more declaring a representation of self-identity than perfume, I think, is number one. Okay, so this is a great indicator of how this cultural trend is evolving. And let me just mention very briefly the last point, this trend to sustainability. Well, in my opinion, this is a long-term trend here to remain for the next years. Let me say that as according to what I've seen in the presentation, there is still a huge room of improvement about the definition of sustainability in perfumery, and I'm very happy that there will be in the next days a webinar here discussing this topic. So thank you very much, Alicia and Silvio. It was super interesting. I could discuss for hours, but I think it's not allowed by our timing. So I give back the floor to Silvio. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marco. Very interesting summary. At this point, I give the stage to Karen directly, because then Karen will follow us later on. Okay, Karen, it's your turn. Thank you so much.
Great. Well, the observations that I gather from the study are first of all, we see that the interest in artisan fragrance is growing, and this is very positive for the sector. And we also see that it's growing in countries that we normally wouldn't have expected it to be, which we had, I think, Nigeria, India, and Canada on the list, which I think this shows opportunity and potential in these countries that we may not have recognized in the past. Another thing is that we see that, we were all locked up for 18 months. And certainly we had more time, maybe, to do some research and to be online and to do some discovery, and that people show the interest in fragrance, and that they were looking, because they couldn't go in the store, so they were looking for a way to find what's the right fragrance for me. How do I test? I know what I like. How can I find what I want? And in the same time, you had many of the brand sites that were developing diagnostics. So you had these tools that were growing. You also had something like Wiki Parfum that you go on and you say what fragrance you're currently wearing, and it'll give you a list of a few others you may want to try. So we definitely had a growth in these types of tools that could help the consumer in their search for fragrance. I think that also I wanted to point out that for me, it was quite interesting as now a Franco-American who spent most of my life in the US and was a fragrance buyer for Sephora in the US, that, almost half of the searches came from the US. And so to me, I draw a few conclusions. And first of all, the first one was about gender, because when you think that most of the searches for gender were skewed towards men, and it was very small for unisex, and then the women's was growing. But if you think about it, when you go in the stores, not a high-end perfumery, but a department store, a Sephora, a Douglas, something along those lines, you're still seeing the fragrance merchandised with men's here and women's here, and maybe you've got some exclusive brands in the center by themselves. Plus, it's on their websites this way. So it is still segregated. And I think that, you know, as long as it's going to continue to be that way, we're going to still be, you know, mentally thinking men's, women's, and not just fragrance neutral. The other thing is that when you think about it, also looking back in the US, with some of the forum tracking I've done, I've seen that a lot of the vloggers and the bloggers and the websites tend to skew masculine. So you have a lot of guys out there that are talking about fragrance, much more than women. That it was very surprising to me. But the thing is that I think that the men are, and I'm talking general American men, that they may not be informed about fragrance and how to select a fragrance. And so they are going to these places anonymously. They're not embarrassed to ask any questions. You know, how do I put my fragrance? Where do I put my fragrance? How much fragrance? How do I know what's right for me? So I think that there's a correlation there, that the amount of men online looking at fragrance corresponds to them probably not wanting to go in the store and asking these questions. And along that line as well is the fact that in the US market, for many years, it was really frowned on, the idea that men would wear an eau de toilette or an eau de parfum, to the point that that brands marketed their product as cologne, even if it could technically be called something else because it had a higher concentration. So the fact that the searches are skewing higher for cologne and aftershave, and that the gender is 75% male, I think it all makes a lot of sense. The last point I wanted to make is just I second you, Marco, in saying that clearly we still have some work to do in terms of defining, you know, what is artisan, what is niche, what is independent, what is original, because these are questions that we did have in the last session back in 2019, and I think that it shows that we still have some work to do. Now I hand it over to you, Silvio.
Thank you so much, Karen. So we are closing. I think that the most interesting thing, just to make a summary, that artistic perfumery show a high resilience during this period. That is something very interesting. I think that anosmia is also a very interesting phenomenon, because a lot of people finally thinks about olfactive approach in a different manner. So we will have something in the next period. Is absolutely sure that we consider also the impact on taste, because losing smell and taste is something that cooperate, and so there will be a demand much more. We need an intensive work targeted to define artistic identity, artistic perfumery identity. So I absolutely agree with you. And interesting, the men shy, you know, that you mentioned about, because it's a matter of fact that we have a lot of intense cologne, so terms that reassure people, but that means also that more people are approaching, and so we have to propose them. The school courses, etc., is evidently, as you underline, that people want to know. The brain to consumer is an absolutely fundamental activity, and the route toward the huge success is absolutely evident in front of us. So I would like to close in that manner this live show, thanking all of you for the contribution, and we go to the next appointment, leaving just a post to the people, and then we will be back with a new live talk. Thank you so much to everyone, and thank you to Chiara that we will listen later on. Okay, bye everybody. Thank you.
Bye.